What's up, Navigating Academia family? I hope you guys are having an amazing week so far. This is your buddy and personal academic mentor, Dr. J. Phoenix Singh, coming at you to be able to answer a question that anybody who currently is in a master's program, and certainly those of you who are thinking about applying for a master's program, have probably pondered at some stage, which is how do you pick the best master's thesis project? You're going to be doing some research as part of your master's probably, especially if you're watching this video, and so because of that, you want to make sure that you pick one that's going to help your career the most, and is also something that you're really actually interested in doing. Way too often I see people commit just because they want to get into a program. They commit to something that they have zero interest in whatsoever, and they just say, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and do this, and what ends up following is 1 to 3 years of absolute hell for them. Not because it's actually that bad in terms of the research, sometimes can be, but usually it's just because they have no passion for it. And when that happens, you feel trapped. And when you feel trapped, all sorts of things happen in terms of your fight or flight symptom biologically that makes you so uncomfortable. It's a terrible feeling. And so that's why I'm here, to be able to make sure that I can help you guys and give you the best tips that I can about how to be able to choose a master's thesis project that is both personally fulfilling, but also is something that's going to help you with your future career, in particular if you want to apply for a doctoral program after the completion of your master's, okay? So today what I thought I would do is basically give you my 3 best tips for this, okay? So my first tip for choosing the best master's thesis project is you need to both lead with the research literature and you need to end with the research literature. So what do I mean by that? So Alice in Wonderland is always kind of the example that I give here, right? So chasing the rabbit down the rabbit hole, all right? So what happens is that whenever you want to get to know a new research literature, what I want you to do is I want you to start with meta-analyses, systematic reviews, large-scale epidemiological studies, government agency reports, white papers from nonprofits and private foundations, and then also if you can find any in-field surveys for whatever kind of your topic of interest is. Really, that's where we need to start, and preferably if you can limit your research literature review or your searching, if nothing else, to the last 3 to 5 years, that's the best. The literature grows at an exponential pace, and because of that, it is very, very difficult to be able to say, hey, there was something 10 years ago that I read and it led to this great question, and hey, okay, I'm just going to answer it with a master's thesis. The thing is that was done so long ago, the likelihood is that somebody's already done that project by now. And if somebody hasn't done it in 7 years, honestly, you may need to rethink whether or not it's a good idea or not. I'm just saying, right? That's been my experience at least. So the idea, though, is that if you start with especially a systematic review or a meta-analysis, that's going to give you a general review of the existing research literature on a topic. And usually they're going to say, hey, here is the research literature that's already out there. Here are the major trends, the major findings, and the major limitations. This is going to help you out a lot, especially the major limitations. And if it's a really recent literature review, because that's kind of what you want, what's going to happen is that you're going to be able to use that genius brain of yours to be able to ponder and say, okay, well, this is a research question that I have based on this review and the limitations that it's found so far. So let me see whether or not anything more recently has been published to be able to answer that question. So I want you to do that, and most of the time it already will have been done. That doesn't mean you should stop. That means you should read that next study to be able to get the answer, let that genius brain go again, and say, okay, what's the next question that you have based on the findings of that study? And keep doing that over and over and over again, because eventually you're going to have a question that's very, very logical, because it's based on reading one study, then the next study, then the next study, then the next study, and then all of a sudden it'll almost be like a cliff where there's nothing. And if that's the case, that is an amazing place to start with regards to formulating your your master's thesis project, okay? That research project. Obviously, you're going to want to discuss all of this with your supervisor, and it's really important to be able to either choose a target supervisor if you're still in the application stage, who has a very specific statistical, analytic, and research methodological skill set, right, where whatever that project is that you want to do, it has a really strong goodness of fit with them. If you're already in a program right now and you're trying to figure out a specific project and you're just like, hey, I really want to use, Cox regression, and they have absolutely no idea what Cox regression is, and they are somebody who does, Poisson regression analyses, that's all they do. Okay, unfortunately, it may be something where it's just not in their wheelhouse, okay? And it honestly wouldn't be a great idea to just kind of behind your supervisor's back just say, well, there's somebody else in the department who knows about it, and so because of that, I'm just going to go and learn from them. It's like, no, you want to make sure your supervisor is an integral part of this process, and that, remember, no master's thesis supervisor wants a co-general, okay? You are a soldier, they are the general. Make sure that you allow them to play that role, especially because when it comes to letters of recommendation, it's critical that you come across as somebody who's a real team player, and the operational definition of a team player when you're in grad school is basically, within reason, doing what the graduate supervisor requests of you. It is what it is, right? Is it right? Most of the time not, right? But there are also cases where you don't know best and they do, and if you have a supervisor who really cares about you, you should follow their lead, okay? So that's number two. The final thing is to not pick any master's thesis project which has too much uncertainty in it in terms of how long it's going to take you to be able to actually do that project. And so what I mean by that is that I've had friends who have done projects at the master's and the doctoral level where they're supposed to get out of that master's program between 1 to 3 years, and in the end it's taken them over 5 years because their data collection methodology was just way too ambitious. Because a lot of the times people think they're going to do their most important research work in grad school, and it's just not the case, guys, okay? So I don't want you to think that that's true. It's just not. Ideally, you want to get into the master's program, get out as fast as you can. If you want to do a doctoral program, get into that and get out of that as fast as you can, and then just start your career. That's what the idea is here. Hopefully you can, come up with some findings that you're going to be able to publish. If nothing else, if you have, no findings that you were able to publish, you can, if nothing else, go and give a conference paper, or, at worst, you can, do a guest blog or, an Ask Me Anything or a Twitter takeover or something like this to be able to talk about, your findings and kind of get the word out that a study was done on whatever your study topic was. And, here are the major findings, okay? You can also put it into what's called an open access repository. There's a lot of options there. If you need more help in terms of figuring out what you should choose as a master's thesis project, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me via the website below, book a session, and we can go ahead and talk about it and make sure that we end up with a project that you're very happy with, that makes you feel personally satisfied, but is also something that's really quite doable, okay? So, God bless. Great to be able to see you guys as always. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and be sure to share this video. All right, guys, have a great day. See you in the next one.